Well, I'm louder by nature.
Yay!
And, as my parents would have told you, I love to talk. So, this is a good opportunity for that. Also, being in politics and being a lawyer all these years, I always come with notes. So I'm going to go through them, and then I'm more than happy just to join in. But I do want to thank the organizers today. I want to thank James, Lionel, Bill, and all the others who've been involved here, because you're in the forefront. And when I first was reading Bill's research, I thought, here it is. Here, I mean, it's against their own plans. And to say it broadly fits in, that's just not good enough for the community. And all of you here, I think, are feeling the same way, or you wouldn't be here. Broadly fitting in to something that doesn't actually fit at all is trying to fit, something into the wrong place at the wrong time. This isn't the way it's supposed to work. But it's hard. It's hard to engage the community because we're all busy with our lives, and it's hard to take time. So I really want to thank all you gentlemen and you, James, and all the rest that have been working so hard on this because my heart's with you. So I just want to thank you all for being here today. Why are we here? We're here because we all love this community. We love South Surrey. And I would say Surrey more broadly, because this is where we live, and or White Rock. I mean, this is our home, our community. So we're here because we want safe streets, we want safe schools, safe parks for our kids and our grandkids. My husband and I are here today, 4 children later and 8.5 grandchildren. So, we continue to want this for our family, for your families. This is so important. And because this hard drug supportive housing project is being pushed into our community, it's being done over your objections, while you're being basically told, certainly initially, to sit down and keep quiet about it. They don't want to see Bill's research. They don't want to see these protests. But you haven't been quiet, and you shouldn't be. So I applaud you for that. None of us should be. And we should be saying no to hard drug housing. And yes, let's talk about safe, affordable homes, safe places to walk, safe places to be. But we shouldn't be having to put this kind of energy into this conversation, and yet here we are. So the project we're talking about, the South Surrey Mixed Housing Project, or DP number 25-0297, I was thinking to myself when Lionel was talking, there's a reason they use the kind of terminology they use, because they really don't want you to understand what they're doing. They don't want you to look behind that wording. So this is being sold as supportive housing. But and I know, what's really on the table here is what Bill is describing. It's a hard drug, so-called harm reduction experiment dropped into the middle of our neighborhood. That can mean more crime, more addiction, more needles in our parks and playgrounds. That is what this is a drug den model. I'm sorry, I'm going to speak very plainly here today because we don't get a lot of chances to be together like this. That's exactly what people here are afraid of, and we don't want to see it on our own streets. Let's be very clear. I agree with them. We are not against helping people who are struggling. We believe in treatment and recovery, in proper, secure recovery facilities with medical supervision.
Yes.
We are against a model that normalizes open hard drug use, that invites drug dealers and then gangs, and that turns surrounding blocks into an unsafe free-for-all. There is a world of difference between real recovery-focused treatment in proper facilities that expect people to get better and support them to do it, and drug den housing that abandons them, which is also what you've heard here, and abandons the neighborhood. What does that give you? It gives you chaos. We should be saying no to hard drug housing and yes to safe, affordable homes where families can live, work, and raise their kids without fear. This isn't just South Surrey. And this is where I want to speak plainly. This is an NDP blueprint. What's happening here is not an accident, and it's not a one-off. The BC NDP government and their radical allies in city halls are trying to bring this hard drug supportive housing model to every neighborhood, in every city and town in British Columbia. And I note that the federal Liberal MP here, Ernie Clausen, has voiced his full support in person and in writing. I say shame to that. They start with one project, then another, then another. Most of you know Richmond has been dealing with this. Other communities are dealing with this too. They tell each community, don't worry, this is small, this is controlled, this is compassionate. And every time residents raise concerns, they are either silenced or ignored, and often worse, they are manipulated and lied to. But look around the province. Downtowns that feel less safe than they did 10 years ago. Some totally unrecognizable. Williams Lake almost had to impose a curfew at night. That is how bad the drugs and disorder have gotten in BC. Parks and playgrounds where parents are nervous to let their kids run barefoot because of needles, where parents have to link arm in arm to clean up public fields before their kids can have a soccer game. We didn't used to see this. This is a new phenomenon of the last decade. Small businesses dealing with theft, vandalism, and people using hard drugs in their doorways. This isn't compassion. This is failure. Deliberate, ideological failure. Let me say this plainly. The NDP and the mayors who go along with them will never stop pushing this drug-den supportive housing model until they're thrown out of office. They have their plan, and it's not our plan. They are not going to wake up one morning and suddenly admit they were wrong. They are not going to suddenly start listening to us after ignoring us for years. The only thing, frankly, that will change their behavior is when voters say, enough, you're fired, don't agree with you. That brings us to Surrey and Surrey's mayor and city council. They have allowed this hard drug-den supportive housing project to move ahead here in South Surrey. They could have pushed back, stood up, spoken out, and used the levers they have at city council to block this already, but they didn't. Why? They have heard your concerns about crime, public safety, and the impact on nearby schools, seniors' homes, and small businesses. They know residents are worried about needles in parks and about dealers circling around vulnerable people. And instead of standing with us, they've chosen to stand with the NDP and their pro-drug activists. If Mayor Locke and Surrey City Council won't stop the drugs from being pushed into South Surrey, then we have to, by organizing exactly what you're doing, by speaking up and by electing people when the time comes next year, who will put safe streets and families first. I understand that Brenda Locke and Mayoralty hopefuls like Linda Annis started out either supportive of the project or neutral, and now are telling our residents they will stand against it. Ask yourselves, why did they have to be convinced? Did you have to be convinced? No. Why wasn't their first instinct to protect you and your families? And this isn't happening in a vacuum. I just want to mention this, and I know that's not the main purpose today, but Surrey is also in the middle of a violent extortion crisis, and that is spinning out of control. I just attended an event before coming here with Pierre Poilievre, who's in town on 78th Street, full of people scared to death, literally, and under threat by violent extortionists. A man with a small business showed me the video he was threatened with just this morning, showing his home being shot at out of a window, and they were threatened along with a demand for $1 million. He and his brother run a small machinist shop, and saying they know where their kids go to school. His brother's now hiding his children and afraid to let them go to school. They can't live in their own home right now. These are our neighbors. You've seen the headlines, you've heard other similar stories from friends and from others in the community. Small businesses being shaken down, families receiving threats, shots fired, homes targeted, people being killed. Living in fear because criminals think they own these streets. Well, so let's connect the dots. When you refuse to enforce the law on open, hard drug use, when you treat addiction as a reason to look the other way at crime, when you send the message that rules don't apply in certain neighborhoods, you create exactly the kind of environment in which organized crime, extortion, gang violence thrive. Criminals watch government because they want to know what's going to happen to them if they ever happen to get caught. And they pay attention. And right now, the message they're getting from the NDP and frankly the federal Liberal government and too many city halls is, we'll talk tough at the microphone, but on the ground, we'll look the other way. That has to end. People in Surrey deserve police who have the resources and backing to take gangs and extortion networks apart, crown prosecutors who are supported and expected to keep dangerous offenders and open hard drug use off the street, an education system that teaches our children not to use drugs and to understand the harm. We want them to learn not to use drugs. Instead, they're being taught how to use those drugs, as though they will all be users someday. So here you are at home teaching one thing, they go to school, they're learning something else. A justice system that protects law-abiding families and small businesses before it worries about the comfort of criminals and those who would do us harm. You should not have to live in fear because government is afraid of being called too tough on crime. You can't be too tough on criminal behavior where it's extortion, gang violence. Believe me, we can get tougher and we can deliver safer neighborhoods. I spent years in Ottawa, including as a federal cabinet minister and as Conservative Party whip. I've seen what serious, focused public policy looks like. When I was a federal Conservative cabinet minister, when Stephen Harper was Prime Minister, and before the BC NDP got elected, Surrey and every other city and town in BC was much safer than it is today. We had fewer drugs and drug overdoses than we do today. Despite all their talk, all their rhetoric, it wasn't like this 10 years ago. Were there problems? Of course. Was there some of this behavior? Of course. But not right in your neighborhood, in your face, outside of your door, like it is today. Real leadership means standing up for victims before you worry about criminals' feelings. Supporting treatment and recovery while drawing a hard line against open drug use in neighborhoods. I used to be the president on a board of the Little House Recovery Society. Some of you may know it. It's based out of Tawasin. Our kind of focus was abstinence-based. We got so much grief from Fraser Health and Coastal Health that we actually were trying to help support people get off drugs because their way of looking at it is you should just keep them addicted and keep helping them and even give them free drugs, most of which it's admitted that they sell for harder drugs. They're not trying to help people get better. They're not trying to help them get their lives back, and they're not going to help those 60 units in this new proposal. They're not going to help those people. They're not there to help them. They call it harm reduction. Well, their harm isn't being reduced and our harm isn't being reduced. It's a failed policy. We need to demand accountability from our police, prosecutors, and politicians to make sure our communities are safe. So real leadership means saying to the NDP in Victoria and to any weak mayor allies in city halls, you do not get to gamble with our kids' safety. You do not get to turn our neighborhoods into test sites for your drug experiments. That's not what we want. So what do? We come together. We push back. We don't let up. And having said that, I understand, just looking at this group, and I know many of you here, this isn't where you want to spend your Saturday afternoon. And many of you have never been in a protest in your lives. You didn't expect. But she put her hand up, so she's feisty. But you don't expect to be in a position where you're having to actually advocate and get on a street and hold a sign. This isn't what you wanted to do. They put you in this position. So we say clearly, no hard drug housing in South Surrey. We insist that here the focus should be on homes that young working families and grandparents can afford to buy and raise their kids in. Homes that seniors can afford to retire in with dignity. Nothing wrong with being low income. Nothing wrong with being a senior. There is something wrong that's saying because you're low income or because you're a senior, you're going to be housed right next to someone with critical care and serious drug addiction. That is not compassion. We all need to have homes we can afford, homes that fit into the surrounding neighborhood. And so we need to say yes to low-income housing and seniors who are struggling, no to exposing those same vulnerable people to more risk of harm. That's why we should demand that City Council shut down this drug den project or be prepared to face voters who will. This is an opportune time. It is an election year next year. And anyone who wants to be in City Hall as a mayor or a councillor, they're already running and organizing for that. So if there was ever a time to make them listen, I suggest to you it is now. So, you know, I'm asking you, sign the petitions, keep contacting the mayor and every councillor, respectfully but firmly, and tell them to stop this project as conceived. Talk to your neighbors. Don't assume someone else is going to take care of it. Get as many people as possible out to the protest at Surrey City Hall on Monday at 4 o'clock. That is just before the council meeting. It's the perfect time to do it. And again, thank you to all the organizers who's been working so hard to make it happen. We should have an amazing show of force on Monday at 4 o'clock. And I'm so happy I'll be able to be there. And when the time comes, support and elect leaders who will put lower crime, safer streets, and families first, not the ideology of the NDP and their radical mayor allies. We cannot stand by while this unfolds. Because if the Surrey mayor and her council won't stop the drugs, then we must. So I stand by you. We stand taller together. We all know that. We will protect our most vulnerable, our seniors, our children, and the families who built this community. We'll say no to hard drug housing, yes to safe neighborhoods. Before I close, I want to ask you something. How many of you here either own a home here in Surrey or are working and saving every month to try to buy a home? Look at that. You are what is special about so many cities and towns across BC and Surrey, here, and White Rock. You are the people driving this community response. Homeowners, people who make their home here, and the people grinding it out every day to become homeowners. That's the beating heart of any neighborhood. The families making mortgage payments, paying property taxes, which by the way, I notice keep going up and up and up, trying to make rent and still somehow save for a down payment, the people cutting the grass, coaching kids' sports, volunteering in schools and in churches, those are the people who give any neighborhood its strength and its soul. And the NDP government response? Through endless, reckless inflationary spending, the NDP piles extra pressure on the Bank of Canada to raise interest rates, and you are the ones stuck with those higher mortgage and rent payments. NDP policies punish the construction of homes that families can actually buy. Why are there homeless? Why are there low-income people who need housing? Why are there seniors who can no longer make it go when they thought they would have enough in their retirement? Because everything's costing so much more. And this rewards big rental-only projects where you're allowed to pay the bills but never allowed to build equity or own anything. So now the NDP pulled their punches on the Cowichan decision, creating a legal mess. We've got people who don't even think they can own their property anymore, and when they're going to go in to get their mortgage, they're already being told, we won't lend to you. Oh. Like, what? You work so hard, I know I have in my life, to try and own a home, albeit with a mortgage. And if my bank tells me when I have to renew in a month and a half, sorry, like private property doesn't mean what it used to anymore. These are big, big issues. So that kind of uncertainty is not an accident. It's a direct result of weak leadership and bad policy, because at the end